Can I make a suggestion from your work?
Sure.
It's from a lecture that you gave, and it's written on my wall over there, and it's, don't practice what you do not want to become.
Oh, yes. That's yeah, I have a corollary of that too that works in relationships. Do not punish what you want to have happen. So here's an example. Imagine that you've married someone that you find attractive. And then imagine that other people find that person attractive as well, and that's actually somewhat threatening to you. And then instead of dealing with the fact that you're threatened by the very thing that you were attracted to and that you're blessed to have, you start to punish the person that you're with when they manifest themselves as attractive. Well, you do that for 10 years and the attractive person is no longer there. And then you're going to be angry at them, even though it was completely your fault. Because if you punish someone for the manifestation of a desirable virtue, it really hurts them. Because people are, it's so interesting to watch what happens when people stop me on the street, especially if they're shy and maybe somewhat damaged. They want to tell me about something good they've done, but they're very hesitant about it because their experience has been that if they reveal something good they've done, they either get ignored or punished. And so they don't want to do it. They're afraid. But if they do it and then they get a reward, well, they're unbelievably happy about that. But that's a good example because it's very common for people to experience punishment for their virtue. And, you can do that with your kids too if you're jealous of them. I mean, maybe you have a kid who's really bright. He's brighter than you. It's like, are you so sure you're happy about that? And how do you know that you're not going to punish that child because you're jealous? And if you think you're not that sort of person, well, you should think again, because people are that sort of people. And perhaps you can train yourself not to do it, but envy is a pretty common human emotion, and the probability is that you're reasonably prone to it. But so one of the things I learned again from animal behaviorists, Skinner in particular, Skinner believed that he's the psychologist who was most famous for learning experiments with rats. He believed that the best form of discipline, so if you wanted to train an animal to do something, was reward. You waited till the animal did something that approximated what you wanted, and you immediately rewarded it. So maybe he would train a rat to climb a ladder and then walk across the top of a ladder down another ladder. And well, he just watched the rat, and whenever the rat went near the ladder, he'd give it a food pellet, and soon it was near the ladder all the time. And then being near the ladder, it would put a leg on a front paw on one rung, bang, food pellet. Well, soon the rat was going like this. And then the next thing, it was going like this. And a good animal behaviorist can train an animal to do an amazing thing, any number of amazing things. In your intimate relationships, if you watch the people that are around you and then you see them doing something that they should do more of, and I don't mean this in a manipulative sense, because hopefully if you have any sense, you're rewarding them for something that would also be really good for them. And you say, look, I saw you do this, and that's really good. Do more of that. It's like, man, you're just opening up the pathway for that person to deliver what you want. If you'll admit what you want, if you'll reward it when it happens, if you pay proper attention, if you think you deserve what you desire, if you think your ideals are worth pursuing, if you have any faith in yourself. I mean, all those things have to be explored and answered, but it's unbelievably powerful. And that's all dependent on, well, moral orientation and the capacity to pay attention. Absence of cynicism.
We have an equivalent with ourselves as well, right? The equivalent is
definitely
that we need to do what we want to become. We can afford to give ourselves those little rewards and also to punish ourselves when we do the things we don't want. And you...
well, you see people do this all the time. So maybe you decide that you want to sit down and write. I don't know. Maybe you decide you want to clean your room. And it's a hell of a mess. And you're working with the therapist and, he says, look, just open one of the drawers and look at it. Because you've been avoiding it for 5 years. That's all you have to do this week. Open it and look at it. And, on the one hand, that's so trivial and it's pathetic. But on the other hand, no, it's not. And so often the person will come back and say, well, that I did it, but it was just stupid. It's like, no, it wasn't. Your room isn't clean, but you opened the damn drawer. And now it's time to give yourself a pat on the back. But to do that, you have to admit, in some sense, you have to admit how pathetic you actually are. You have to admit how pathetic you are before you can reward yourself. And that's okay, because that patheticness, well, it's sort of built in to the fact that you're vulnerable, and you need a small step and you need a reward. That's okay. It's okay that that's the case. When you see people, what they'll do is they'll say, well, that's just a good indication of how useless I am. That's all I could do. So they punish themselves. Well, then you have an opportunity. You say to them, look, there's two things going on here. You can't clean up your room. That's a problem. But you also can't reward yourself properly. So we need to take that apart and fix that so that you can reward yourself properly. And that's also why, when I suggested to people that they clean up their rooms, the reason I did that was because I actually knew how difficult that is. Because to get your room in order, there's no way you can get your surroundings in order without simultaneously getting yourself in order, at least to some degree. And it's for exactly the reasons I just discussed. What you'll find is the reason the mess is there is because of psychological mess. Assuming it's not, you didn't just move or something, you know what I mean? There might be obvious situational contributors, but generally speaking, is the mess, the external mess is absolutely isomorphic with the individual mess. And so it's really powerful to order and beautify something in your immediate environs. It's unbelievably powerful to do that. You learn a tremendous amount. You also may find, for example, maybe your family's dysfunctional. And part of the reason that your room is such a bloody mess is because if you ever took any steps to address it, they would punish you. Because as soon as you start to clean up your room, then you cast a dim light on their mess. And so they see you taking a step forward, they're going to whack you because now you're an ideal that's judging them. So you deal with someone who is in a dysfunctional family and you ask them to do something positive to move forward, and then you watch the resistances that emerge, and you've got a picture of the pathology in the family, and that can help the person start to sort that through. Because maybe they can say, and like you have to do a lot of negotiating and thinking before this is a possibility, but maybe you say, well, look, you have to have a talk with your mom. You have to say, look, Mom, I'm doing something good here, and your reaction is to punish me. What the hell is up with that? Now, that's a complicated conversation, and maybe you have to start with something even smaller than that, but you get the point. These things aren't simple. They're not simple at all. And luckily, though, they're right in front of you. You can, in fact, do it, and you'll learn a lot from doing it. So